Okay. All right, we should be starting very shortly. Good afternoon, everybody. Before we start, I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that if you have any questions, there's a button to the right of the screen. If you click on the button, you'll get the interface in order to pose your questions, and we'll ask those, and you can vote for questions that you feel are more important. Today, we have Pavel Hrade, who's a PhD from the University of Economics in Prague. He completed his studies in technical cybernetics in 1989. After graduation, he began working as an IT analyst at the University Hospital in Prague, where he was branch manager as well at the retail bank and sales marketing manager in various companies. Since 1995, he's worked at SAP in Czech Republic as a consultant, later as a solution architect and management consultant for key customers. And since 2007, he's been specializing in advising on IT strategy and enterprise architecture. In 2009, he started his doctoral series on enterprise architecture at the University of Economics in Prague, completed in 2015, and is continuing to teach EA there. In 2015, he started to work as an external advisor in the Czech Ministry of the Interior in the role of chief methodologist of the National Architecture of Czech Public Administration. He is the co-author of Digital Czech Strategy, and here he is today. Very happy to have him today to talk about digital transformation in the Czech Republic government. And away you go, Dr. Pavel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to speak at your conference. I would like to tell you a story about where the Czech Republic is in the journey to digitizing its public administration and what the role of National Architecture Authority is. Let me start with little history. Our current digital transformation has actually been limited to build electronic tools for so-called e-government. Everything else, such as a transformation, the perception of liable person as a client, or transmutation of duties in services and regulation in knowledge, all this is still ahead of us. The history of e-government in Czech Republic began before year 2000 with some strategic initiatives. You can see the list of key milestones for our digital service delivery. We've created a precondition equivalence of electronic and traditional documents and signatures. And then we were focused on communication with clients, citizens. First, we've created a guaranteed mail channel named data boxes, and then nationwide integrated assisted counters named checkpoint. It means filling and checking national terminals. But the big revolution was in 2012. We ran into operation-based registers, master data for all government. In the recent past, we focused again on delivery of services, means especially central transactional portal, not only the informational, but also transactional portal, and growing number of self-service public administration services. The prerequisite of it was unified electronic identification, so-called identity hub for public administration clients, citizens, and the similar hub also for officials. And in the near future, we have to build the let's say, federated customer care center, combining the central and local contact centers and helping our clients in using the self-service especially, and also for allowing our organizations, legal entities to use digital services. We have to build a digital power of attorney and representations. Now we can show this journey in some architectural diagrams. For us, it's important to emphasize that clients should be served in their life situation regardless on the place and time, and the authorities should cooperate on this. Therefore, we have here two authorities, but in these times, it was not the case, the cooperation. Until 2000, all requests submitted to government by citizens and organizations were exclusively traditional, either in paper or in person. And moreover, it was submitted separately to each office all over and over again. After 2000, the strategy relied on the use of electronic signatures and replacement requests from paper with electronic ones. And it was possible by adoption of Act on electronic signature. And in addition, we've created and started to operate a lot of portals, also with a central one, but all of them were just informational channels. Later, as I mentioned, we've created an assisted network of contact points or network of assisted contact points, where clients can get most important or most often statements and certificates, not staying in queue in our capital, but in every village in our country. And we also implemented guaranteed data boxes for communication between public agencies and legal entities for which this tool was mandatory by law. In 2012, we've implemented base registers. You can see a list of registers, and you see also that these are most important master data shared with hundreds of agencies across the country. The scheme could look like this way, where we implemented the central registers and also enforced agencies to build their own local master data synchronized with the central ones. Therefore, we have, let's say, single source of truth, at least regarding subjects of law. Today, we are focused on extension of list of digital services available centrally or locally in transactional websites, individual agencies. We are also allowing an access of clients to their own data managed or registered by individual agencies from a center point. And we are proud having identity hub collecting at the same place in the same manner a lot of ID means issued by a lot of identity providers. In near future, we have to build central and local mandate registries, the customer or client care contact centers, and force the idea of master data into sharing whole so-called interconnected data pool, not only the original master data, but all data available in the public administration regarding clients necessary in the other office to be shared via integration platform of our base registers. It was the architecture view, and now let me open the citizen portal to get a feel for where we come. We are trying to ensure that clients find services according their life events. But maybe more natural for some clients to look for services in catalog structured by categories, which corresponds a bit with structure of our public administration sectors, ministries. After selection of some service or category, it's better to log in, because only then you can consume the service a proper way with all the comfort coming from your own data kept in our network. For login, the client can choose between the new method, citizen identity, or the let's say little bit or old-fashioned or original concept of identity coming with data boxes, which will be overcome or replaced by the central identity of a citizen. There is a list of identity means. Some of them are the state ones, some are other private ones, and also we have an access for our European citizens via international gateways. When I will select bank identity, a list of local commercial banks providing the identity for home banking is available, and I can access the state services the same way like my home banking. Being in after login, I can ask for some statements or certificate, or can manage, for example, my vehicles or real estate, or can have a look where in the agencies my data are managed. My list contains about 30 agencies. I see my data, or I can drill down into local solutions, for example, in the cadastre, which is one of the preferred service in our country. In addition to feelings and the user experience, exact numbers are also important for us, and I have a few selected numbers also here for you. One important milestone occurred a month ago, where the historical but still more and more important data boxes achieved 1 billion data message sent. We will stay ahead of next milestone or growing trend, because beside of legal entities, the data boxes tool will be mandatory, of course, also for private persons, holders of active holders of identity means, and for self-employed entrepreneurs. We are expecting the other growth of messages. Also important is that from the number of adult population, more than 8 millions, already more than 5 millions of people are owners or holders at least one active identity mean. It is 62%, and 26% from them already used the identity mean and consumed at least one digital service. The curve is rapidly growing, And for me as an architect, it's also important that the behavior and technology is unified, but clients still have the freedom to use ID means of their choice. If some of you will ask what kind of service is, let's say, more demanded or more popular, I have a copy of yesterday's statistics. The general services like data boxes or portal are here, and also typical services like social insurance, land registry, and still planning of vaccination for COVID. In graphical form, last year was, let's say, surprisingly typical because we had a COVID pandemic, and planning a vaccination was a clear winner. Then some generic services and cadastral social affairs, and for example, technical check of your cars and toll collection, very important services. The other services are rapidly minor, and this is one of our tasks, let them grow. But in fact, no service is the best service. No need the services is the best situation. And now is the time to explain how the central architecture authority is helping to this all. In past, we have some departments like this, but in 2014-15, we were on the crossroad. Some of pillars of eGovernment were already built, but services was not popular, not so massively or heavily used. So we had to build some other prerequisites like central identity hub, and especially to push hundreds of agencies to rapidly develop their digital services in unified, uniform way. So our government decided to re-establish a Department of Chief Architect at Ministry of Interior. Since beginning of 2016, we were instructed to do check or assessment of all IT projects with the value bigger than 250 euros. And we've selected the enterprise architecture as a method and created a form layout for the request or application, which were based on our domain model similar to TOGAF. And also not only state agencies, but also the municipalities and local government sent projects to us, especially in case where they want to contribute to financing from European funds. There is a lot of responsibilities and duties in the department, and not all of them are managed equally well with our limited capacity. Comparing with countries like UK or Denmark, we are 10 times smaller, but hopefully we will grow. Many officials from agencies are not like us because our questions are complicated in their work. But politicians see our results, and it probably allows us to grow instead. I mentioned results. There are some statistics from last year. You can see 162 projects were checked, assessed. with the total value of 350 million euro. There were a lot of deficiencies identified, and we used the mode of consultancy to help agencies prepare better applications with better architecture. And in total, it led to savings in value of 64 million, which is saving in ratio about 18%. The deficiencies were typically not fulfilling the rules, the architecture rules, not using central services, not taking into account the agency as a whole architecture, and reusing components already in place, and probably also not eliminating unwanted vendor lock-in and being focusing only on their own problems and not other standards and legislation. We also try to improve our position and our work, and most important was that department was established not only by decision of minister but also by law, and it allows us be more focused to check smaller number of projects, but more important, only the IT projects with integration to base registers or with services for end users, clients of government. And in addition to individual solution projects, we are trying to help agencies to create their whole of architecture, agency-wide architecture concepts. Both projects and concepts are assessed for compliance with our strategy named Information Policy of Czech Republic, which is, let's say, rolling plan, first approved in 2018, then updated 2020, and now we are preparing another update. We also plan to further improve in the impact, because is not sufficient to assess the plans, but it's also important to check the preparation of productive operation if solution was implemented as it was promised. And we also want to go into deeper detail the same way like in United Kingdom. We want to test or approve individual digital services, but for that we will need many times more employees on board. And also we recognize that despite of pushing to do architecture in agencies, they have lack of resource. And one of the ways, beside of real digital transformation, the agencies, the way will be to provide a competence center for spot consulting, mentoring, and coaching. Now we have only a few people for that, and would like to grow. What methods we are using? Now I would like to tell you a few basic ideas from our architecture framework. First, this is the question of architecture definition. There are many interesting definitions of enterprise architecture. We compared dozens of them and finally decided to define our own. For us, enterprise architecture is not a tool, not a goal. It is a means of humble and holistic exploring and understanding, not some social engineering of the enterprise as a whole in all possible consequences to make informed decisions. It also allows us to use enterprise architecture as a platform or ground for the fine-tuning methods like quality or service management. But the one half of the importance of architecture right now is knowing and understanding the structure and behavior of organization. The second half is about the communication, communicating this understanding. And as it is typical in public sector, our colleagues are using so-called newspeak, and is especially important to call a spade a spade. It means to speak clearly and directly about things, even embarrassing or unpleasant things. It allows us to have the same language, to share knowledge, and made government a little bit more transparent. When we are speaking, when I am speaking about understanding of organization, there is a question what the organizations we want to understand consist of. And we can imagine the organization as a cube of 3 dimensions located in environment. By unrolling the surface of cube, we get 3 areas and 1 for the environment. We tested this view against many organizations and also going into deeper description like this, we've tested that it is still valid. If this is valid for many Czech organizations in government sector, probably this view can be valid also for some or many your organization and can serve you as an inspiration. For us, it was a leading diagram bringing some ideas into so-called reference models and also in our architecture domain model. You can see the motivation, like in the physical people, there are positive motivation, negative motivation, limitation, and risks. And it is so important to us that we've established architecture domains for that motivation. The combination of above mentioned proprietary business model or canvas and the classical architecture layers according to TOGAF, the BADT, business application data and technology, leads us to our own domain model. First, we have the horizontal layers. We are splitting the technology into 2, but then let's say intersection and complementation of these layers is or are domains of motivational architecture. If the basic layers are answering to the question what makes and should make up our organization, then vertical domains are answering why is our organization the way it is, or rather, why should it be different than it is now? And if we recognize some reasons for change and design the target state, then we have to add implementation and migration to answer what we need to do to reach the target state. This domain model is applied across all our artifacts. First example is our try to catch core building blocks of eGovernment in the rough scheme or in bigger detail. I think we have not time to discuss these building blocks, but I'll be glad to have another opportunity to share it with you. What is also important for management of architecture is distinguishing levels of detail and granularity in the pyramid of enterprise. On top, there is a enterprise architecture containing vision, capability model, domain and segment models of enterprise architecture, and answering the existential questions: what exists, what should exist, and why. For identified opportunities, we are drafting the solution architecture, answering how it works or should it work. And because some of parts of solution cannot be procured but has to be built, then of course a design and construction come, answering the question how to construct it. The space of architecture descriptions is complemented by historical views and also the environment. For us, it's important, namely, because we have to constantly reminding our architects and agencies that the overall holistic view must always stand on top of their organization knowledge. And also, we have to teach architects to always consciously stay at the specified level of detail, for example, enterprise architecture, and not to slip into greater detail where many from them feel comfortable, but they do not have assignments, time, or resources to cover the work with properly at a given stage of project. The modeling is bringing us a few categories of models. We as central architects are creating reference models, and we will speak about two of them. We are also creating common shared models at all levels of detail, including solution patterns for shared services. For example, teaching agencies how to connect to data boxes, or how to use identity hub and synchronize identities into their local identity management, and such a kinds of architecture patterns. But most important are individual models of agencies, and we do our best to teach and help agencies to model for at least two mandatory purposes: applications for the main architect for approval of projects, and for creation of agency concepts. First reference model I would like to introduce you is a business reference taxonomy, grouping or dividing capabilities, processes, functions, and services into categories. For better reading, I have here the list, but I can replace it with a bigger detail, level 2. In our model, we elaborated into level 4 or 5 in some areas, and all list of concepts has more than 800 of concepts in that reference taxonomy. For classification and better decision making in application area, we've created another reference model corresponding with that one, and this is grouping applications by business purpose. For example, applications supporting doing the business, and applications supporting resource management. Here you clearly see the correspondence with one of the previously mentioned business models. And I am coming to the conclusion. Now you know more about us, about our methods, how we are using enterprise architecture, what are duties and responsibilities of Office of Main Architect of Czech government. It's maybe time return to evaluating of our journey of digitization of public administration versus digital transformation. We will use the already introduced reference model, trying to answer what all needs to be transformed to be able to say that organization, one agency or one whole ministry or whole public administration of Czech Republic is digitally transformed. From my perspective, all capabilities, all areas of responsibility has to be optimized and transformed using digital enablers and let's say big changes. Frankly speaking, in last 2 decades, we were clearly focused on prerequisites and delivery service for clients. It means e-government. It is the area of number 2. Our digital transformation has some clear starting points and focus. We've started from controversial heritage from the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. Immediately after 1918 revolution and creation of Czechoslovak state, we've inherited the ability to do proper public administration, let's say professional public administration, and we kept the same capability till now. It means we also inherited incredible resilience to change and also to innovation in public administration. And unfortunately, our officials typically or usually are not aware that they are not only enforcing persons to fulfill their duties, but that they are serving clients. So this is mindset change which is ahead of us. In past years, we were clearly focused, as I mentioned. From the beginning, we were focused on base registries, communication channels, portals, services, catalog of services, and so on. So we have a lot of prerequisites, but we were not much successful doing changes within the authorities. Frankly speaking, they did not transform at all. So what we do want to do or how we do want things differently in the future. We have to or want keep or even increase the pressure on delivery services to clients. I mean, not the technology, but real services to clients. But for sustainability of such a changes and for establishing and keeping the continuous improvements, we have to be focused on transformation authorities itself inside. It means, in particular, ensuring human resources and knowledge. Our public administration as a sector is not so prestigious as, for example, the French one or Korean one, some other examples. So we have to make a lot of changes to make public administration an employer of choice. Then we have to add so-called transformation roles and build the capability to change in our traditional offices. Plus, each digital transformation is based on services for clients. It's really client-oriented, and we have to create new roles and new processes for service management and customer relationship management with our citizens and legal entities. And of course, to do it efficiently and not costly, we have to optimize our shared services and adopt agencies or help agencies to adopt shared services for transforming the ordinary things like daily operation, HR, facility management, purchasing, and of course, information technology management. We met also in our way a number of risks, many of which have been already or partially mitigated, and some of them also thanks to Central Architecture Authority and our method, enterprise architecture, which at least allows us to name the problems. Take a look at the list. You will centrally know many of these risks. For us, the lack of people and knowledge remains the biggest risk, or rather recognized threat, and we have to be focused on that. As I mentioned also in lessons learned, let me summarize that at least for introduction of enterprise architecture as a method, not for the digital transformation as a whole, we've recognized four preconditions. We have to have an expert knowledge about the discipline. We have to have a good legal and financial background and tools to enforce vision. Of course, we have to have the vision itself, expressing in principles, building blocks, and other easily communicating tools or pictures. And we have to invest in people, not only in central authority, but also, or maybe much more, in individual agencies. Our experience is that all these four preconditions needs to be met at the same time. And this was not fully our case. Therefore, we still have a space for improvement because we succeed in the first 3 points, but the fourth condition was not sufficiently met. And despite of all shortcomings, we were successful in many ways, as perhaps the demonstration of our portal services convinced you. We are currently updating our digital strategy and information policy for the second time to give priority to areas what has not yet been achieved fully or yet. At the same time, we are preparing a project in which we want to transform ourselves. It means the organization and the way in which we want to lead, coordinate, and support digital transformation of the other authorities. And we believe that we will be successful in that transformation and remain helpful for our colleagues in other agencies and for Czech public administration at all. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. That was quite a lot. It seems like you've really matured a lot of your enterprise architecture in recent years. We'll go to the questions, and just to remind everybody, if you click on the Q&A button to the right, you can pose a question on the website. So here we have a question. For your digital identity program, are you accepting identities and credentials from multiple providers? If so, do you have a trust framework to set standards and guidelines?
I am not an e-identity specialist technologically, but I will say yes, because what we established or implemented is an identity hub based on the standards of identity tokens exchanged between many identity providers to service providers through that hub. So let me answer yes.
All right, we don't have any other questions at this time. Maybe I could ask some questions. Being a member of the European Union, I'm just wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit about some challenges you've faced in terms of from an enterprise architecture perspective and interoperability, and maybe I don't know if you've got a use case or something in there that you could just sort of give an example of challenges you've met.
I think there are challenges and also opportunities. I will start with opportunity, because sometimes in our country we are quite slow and seriously thinking before decision, and the European Union are pushing us to do something like, for example, ADAS regulation, which was the reason why we built our identity hub the way we did. So that's the positive. And somehow challenging is on our own side that we have not, let's say, dedicate or not be able to dedicate enough of capacity to be in Brussels every day, every week, and participate in all groups where things are creating. That's our own problem. And on the side of European Union, the problem is that sometimes things are created really slowly and unclearly, and we are waiting at the local level how the specification will looks like. Sometimes it's better, like for example the e-wallet coming with ADAS 2, but this is also example of both aspects, both sides of the coin. Something is really promising and something is a little bit frustrating.
Very good, thank you. We have another question that just popped up. What challenges did you face working on an architectural strategy while still dealing with day-to-day and short-term needs of the business?
Yeah, the first challenge is that our people don't understand us. So the level of abstraction, how to tell the architecture story, when in agencies there are no people with the requested level of abstraction thinking, and they never did it. The other aspect is how to communicate them their own benefits, clearly understandable benefits for them, if there are some partners to communicate with. Yeah, and I'm back to the resources of people and knowledge, which is really the biggest problem we have, because there are always some money in national budget or in European subsidies allowing us to build something, but having enough local people on board, starting from politicians through management to architects and project managers, this is a real challenge.
Yes, I think a lot of us can probably relate with that same problem globally, really. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think I learned a lot, and I think it was great. I even look forward to any further talks if you're going to get down to the nitty-gritty and all those little boxes that we saw on some of the screens. Yeah, so I just want to thank you again and wish you all the best, and thanks again for presenting.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, take care.
Should I leave?
No, we're just sort of waiting for the video to catch up. So there's this technical issue that we have to overcome for recordings. I'll be shutting it down now.